one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. We have a huge show for you today. We got to talk about Bitcoin's scary signals that are pushing it down even further than where we're at and maybe even pushing it below 60K. We're going to talk about this indicator that is pinpoint accuracy when it calls for a drawdown. And then we have another altcoin that went from a $1 billion to a $3 billion market cap in 24 hours. Tripled. We're going to talk about that altcoin, but I got a warning. If you're thinking about, if you're even considering buying this altcoin, smash the like buttons, everybody. It is a beautiful Monday, and I'm joined here by Drew. Drew, we got a lot of volatility in the markets. Things are going all hectic left and right. I'm going to move from the left from the right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, man. I caught that Trump Truth Social post on 50x leverage, so I'm feeling good. I started the morning hot. And really, you know, we have a lot to cover in that story. The markets are looking pretty bouncy right now. S&P 500 ripping, big move on oil, big move on Bitcoin. It's a good day to be a trader.
Yeah, it is a good day. You know what? On that note, I might just go ahead and cut and run on this short. This is the current percentage in profit. We're 10% in profit. We did see a short. I was late to the short, but the short actually didn't open or, you know, actually end up pushing a little bit higher, screwing up the entry. I was like, well, if that wasn't a good entry down there, maybe this higher entry is good for the short. So we are in a short. We're going to talk about Bitcoin primarily, but I do want to highlight the S&P 500. This is the daily chart. We talked about a couple lines of support. One, first support line here, 6,100. Then we got your level here with this gap fill low, 5,700. But if you go to the daily chart, you'll see there's a little bit of a trend line here. You can see the cut the bottoms here, cut the bottoms there, and look where we bounced, Drew. This is very, very impressive for the stock market, considering all the volatility coming from this Truth Social from Donald Trump. We're going to read this, and what does it mean for Bitcoin? What does it mean for oil? What does it mean for some of these broader stock market indices here? And when we go back to the Bitcoin daily chart, we're still in this range. We drew out this range last week. We kind of poked below it Sunday, but then Monday open, and we are bouncing well above this. And you can see just kind of traipsing along the line right there. I did have something in the shorter term I want to share. Look at that, Drew. Hit against it, hit against it, hit against it. Had a fake bounce here, a little fake, fake active support, and then a nice little pump here. But where it wicks, it sticks, and it's right where it wicked earlier. What are you thinking, Drew? You cut the long.
Yes.
Are you thinking about shorting right now?
It's kind of tantalizing, but we've already gotten the post from the Iranians kind of discrediting what Trump had said, and the market's not giving up any of the ground it gained, which is, you know, if you're a bear, you should be concerned right now. If you're a bear,
this is or I was going to say exactly what you're talking about. This is the effects on the stock market. So Trump had a post. We're going to cover a little bit more detail later. Productive talks. Look how the stock markets reacted to this post here. And then there was an Iranian denial. And this is from the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And we're going to talk about that. But right now, Drew, coming up to very, very interesting point here for the stock market. This is the S&P 500. Now, let's talk about Bitcoin a bit. First, I do want to share, what do we have in the altcoin market? So, like I said, there's a major mover, and is Siren. Look at Siren's 7-day gain there, 268%. I'm going to click on this. We're seeing a sharp pullback. We do have the charts on this one. On the 24-hour, you can see the spike right there. Insane pump. Pretty strong pullback. We did get a higher high. I'm going to talk about the wallet cluster on this one and how it might be a little bit of a cluster mug, if you know what I'm saying here. Bitcoin is now up 3.7%. ETH is up 4.6%. We have XRP with a little bit of a gain here. That's up 3.3%. Solana with the 4.6%. And keep moving. We see Hyperliquid. But you were talking about Night, one of the big movers here. I still have probably 6 of my 8 Night wallets still holding some Night. So maybe I'll continue to sell into the pump. AVAX is up, Drew. Zcash, Shiba Inu. You know, we have people in our chat. They've been bull posting Shiba Inu nonstop for the past couple of weeks. today's your day.
That's
Today's your day.
huge. I mean, it's finally coming back. Is Bittensor concerning that Bittensor's still around $300? My gosh. Looking for lower levels on that one. They haven't played out yet. Solana not breaking 100, not surprised. Bittensor is the one that I want to go back down below 200 to add to the bags. It's odd, like Bittensor and Morpho are still like the most FOMO and I shouldn't have FOMO right now about any altcoin with where we're at in the markets, but they've been performing very, very strong.
And shout out to FOMO, Josh. Shout out to Joshua Jake there. Looking at the big losers, we really don't see anything too crazy here. River's down a little bit, Stable's down, BitGet, Caspa, Mantle, Quant, Athena, a lot of the regular players that you've been seeing dipping back here. But let's talk about this crazy Bitcoin signal. So you see the title, Bitcoin's most reliable crash signal triggers again. Why is this most reliable crash signal? Because this is what we're seeing predicting every fall since the October high. What are we talking about? We're talking about the MACD on the daily. Now, you may bring up, well, wait, I thought you were talking about the MACD this last week. We were talking about the weekly MACD. Now, this weekly MACD candle, this closed 14 hours ago. 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago, 72 hours ago, this was looking bullish. This was peeking its head, potentially showing a little bit of a crossover. But then with this big dump on Bitcoin on Sunday, or later over this weekend here, you can see it there Sunday, there's Saturday. The MACD on the weekly pushed lower. So maybe push back this ultimate bull cross. And we now have created a bear cross. Now the bulls are trying to push this MACD into the positive period or into the positive territory. But when you look, when the daily MACD crosses to the downside, this predicts very, very strong moves to the downside, at least since the top. You can see it right here, flipped into the red, had a couple days of consolidation, followed by a big dump. Here you can see this created this big cascading price and then proceeding the farther or the larger move to the downside. So the MACD, let me explain it a little bit here. So every bearish MACD cross has preceded Bitcoin sell-offs, while bullish crosses only produce these short, weak rebounds, these short-lived weak rebounds. It's the moving average convergence divergence. Talking about the histogram here, also known as the MACD. Cross below zero for the third time, indicating renewed bearish shift in momentum. It uses two lines. First is the MACD line. You subtract the 26-day EMA from the 12-day EMA. The gap gives you your momentum. The other is the signal line. This is the 9-day EMA of the line itself. Really interesting part, though, is the histogram that plots the difference between the two lines. So that's what you saw the bars on the bottom. When it turns positive, signals bullish momentum. When it's negative, as it is now, signals bearish momentum. And since Bitcoin topped out 126, it's developed an almost perfect track record. When it turns bearish, Bitcoin crashes hard. When it flips bullish, weak bounces that went nowhere. That was the chart that I was pulling out earlier there. So the bullish MACD looking kind of bearish. Now, Drew, we have Trump signaling a piece into the escalation. Is that going to be enough for us to flip bullish?
Well, I mean, look at the MACD when we went to Venezuela. We Maduro. We took him to New York. And the MACD is right there where bear cross is written. That time frame is where we did the Maduro move. We flipped down into the negative, but before that, we had a little bit of a blip into the red. That could be similar to what we're looking at right now. That kind of pullback from where we're sitting, man, I just don't think that the price to produce Bitcoin is going to be a null and void point. I think the price to produce is going to be the balance point for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has been able to defend itself way better than the S&P 500 with all the macro going on. We have that kind of hidden selling pressure from Iran gone now. And I do think that, honestly, we might be like in store for another check to 60K, but I really feel like what we're forming is a bottom. We have all the reasons in the world to be in the 50K mark right now. And it didn't happen. We pumped. So,
I mean, yeah, when you go back to that daily, parallel range that we're somewhat trading within here, you can see, I mean, we peaked out a little bit, we wicked out over there a little bit, but we're still firmly in this range. And remember, I asked you guys up or dour. I said bullish or bearish. I wanted to make it a little more simple, so I typed in down. Apparently, I can't spell. That was dour. Up or dour. I don't know. Are you feeling dour when you see these charts? I'm feeling pretty dour myself here, but not everybody is dour. There are some that turn that lemon from something sour into something sweet. We're talking about lemonade. Normally I piss all over his parade, but we're going to use the regular lemonade now. We're talking about strategy here. Strategy, they bought more Bitcoin, about another 1,000, paid 74K per Bitcoin. This is in the last week. 74,300 is the new price here. Average is now 75K. Now they paid 74,300. Go to the daily. They like literally top blasted.
Beautiful. I mean, it's artwork at this point. I mean, he's doing this for the culture, I'd say. That trend line that you had at the bottom end, I had the same one on, and that's what initiated. Like I saw the 4-hour MACD flipping, but we also were just at that. I knew Trump didn't want to have bad news out of his mouth going into market open today. But I think Cuba's next. I do think Cuba is next. So that is
yeah, they are having a lot of issues. They have very, very severe dependency upon oil, and it's mostly foreign oil. They have coal, they have nat gas, but they rely on a lot of oil, and that oil's not coming in. So yeah, this is very, very bad situation over there. Defibrillators are being cut off. I think we have kidney machines, dialysis machines. There's a lot of issues. So what's your prediction with Cuba here?
A similar clandestine operation out of the United States that we saw in Venezuela. And this is, I did a video this weekend explaining in the simplest of terms what I think is going on right now. And this is a time, remember Scott Bessent told us months ago about Bretton Woods 2.0. Howard Lutnick went to Davos, says globalism has failed America. And now we see basically a Monroe Doctrine happening with military action behind it. So they've told us that this is coming.
Now, what's your prediction? Is this something peaceful or something more kinetic?
Something more kinetic. Yeah, it doesn't look like
I'd take the under. I think it'd be peaceful. I think it will peacefully give them a very strong bear hug that breaks the ribs, but it will be peaceful for the most part.
Okay. Well, the president of Cuba doesn't look like he's willing to kind of back down, and I don't think Trump is willing to either. So, that's my thoughts. It could be a peaceful, but I
don't know where they could create any kind of harm. I mean, unless Elian Gonzalez has turned into a super soldier, that's very degraded weaponry, military. I don't see how it could be anything but a peaceful surrender, in my opinion. There, but we will see. We will see. We got 2 predictions here, but we'll revisit this in the future here. Let's talk about some other positive Bitcoin news. Now, I do want to just kind of cover on this Bitcoin purchase, $76 million from Michael Saylor, 1,000 Bitcoin, sizable drop from the $1 billion plus purchases in the previous 2 weeks. Of course, how do they primarily fund that? The Stretch Perpetual. So they sold those $100 par stock where it gives you that 11.5% yield dividend. They paid the average price now for all 762K Bitcoin, 75K. This new purchase, the 70 some odd million, entirely funded via sales of the common stock. So they sold their regular MSTR stock. Now, looking at the Stretch Perpetual, this is starting to move. This was looking a lot better than it was earlier this morning. Getting a little bit closer to that $100 par. It was looking a little bit ugly for a second there. Going to the daily, you can see, we needed a green daily because it was starting to look like a lot of people are starting to dump this. And I'm still, maybe a speculator if it ends up hitting this trend line. Going to MicroStrategy stock or Strategy Inc. here is still, hitting against resistance. Still got pretty strong support. The support goes way back. This is going to be May of 24. This is going to be August of 24. We dipped below it, but we did end up bouncing from there and going to the daily. You can see coming to a head here. So strategy's going to have to choose a direction. Start getting closer down here. That's when I'm a little bit more bullish. That's when I would be, potentially speculating on this one here. Now, we do got some other bullish news for Bitcoin here. New York Stock Exchange removes option limits on 11 Bitcoin and Ether ETFs. It's going to be a subsidiary account here. These are 2 New York Stock Exchange affiliated exchange. It's going to be Arca and American here. Arca came, this is the main one we need to worry about. Arca came from a big conglomeration. They combined 2. It was Arca Exchange and New York Stock Exchange. They joined forces about a decade ago, I want to say, and they ended up creating a new entity trading under New York Stock Exchange, but it's a separate exchange technically. And they removed the 25,000 contract position limit on 11 crypto ETFs, including BlackRock's IBIT. Now, we covered this when they filed it. This was all the way back March 10th. SEC had 30 days. They did not take the 30 days. They ended up, it was acknowledged by the SEC on Sunday, and they waived the standard 30-day waiting period for both sets of rule changes, meaning they are now in effect. So Wall Street can trade Bitcoin ETFs with more leverage, altcoin ETFs with more leverage. The removal of these limits now puts them closer to how other commodity ETF options are treated and gives them greater trading flexibility, aka more room to maneuver with manipulation, while also potentially boosting liquidity and making it easier to enter and exit positions. A total of 11 ETFs, including BlackRock's IBIT, Fidelity's FBTC, ARKs, and others. Let's see. We also have the Bitwise and Grayscale ETFs are affected here. So big news if you're a Wall Street trader and you're looking to do some degen things. This should create a little bit more buying pressure now that there's a couple rules taken out of the way. And I wanted to share this, Drew. There's one altcoin ETF that is different than all the crypto ETFs. I double checked this myself. Went to the dashboard. You can't really trust too much here. Every spot crypto ETF in U.S. history has bled capital within weeks of launch. Bitcoin made it 7 days. ETH lasted 1 day. Chainlink ETFs crossed 75 trading days with zero outflows, not reduced outflows, zero. Mark is telling you something if you're paying attention. Let's go straight to the horse's mouth here. And you can see this is total link spot ETF history data. And there's a couple 0 days. Few 0 days, 0 red days, Drew.
Yeah. I mean, price is still down, so that's kind of concerning. I mean, it is healthy to see these constant inflows into the ETF of Chainlink. I did see Swift is getting ready to roll out their, next generation of blockchain as well. The recent report from Swift didn't mention Chainlink specifically, unfortunately, but Chainlink is one that, if we do go to the low 60s, high 50s again, we are going to the low $8 range. So, Chainlink, it'll spend a while consolidating, I believe. So I'll have more time to add to it, but it is an aggravating thing to see the long-term constant inflows on the ETF. Great performance as far as that goes, and then the price is still below $10. It's like $9.19. After a 5% pump today. So I don't think we're in the zone where alts are exciting yet for me. Chainlink will probably be on that list. If we get that $7 entry point, I'll hammer back in. I will hammer back in.
Speaking of being excited on altcoins, there is a very, very popular analyst, Jason Calacanis from the All In podcast. It's a very popular podcast. It's one of the top finance podcasts out there. It's Jason, it's Chamath, it's Dave and Dave. We got Dave squared on there. And Jason, very bullish on Tau. And I don't know how I feel about this, Drew. Now, he has a couple big bets. He loves to brag about Airbnb or Uber, sorry. He was early in Uber, still holding some Uber. He won't shut up about Tau. He had Henson Chuang on the podcast. Remember, Chamath asked Henson, that's the NVIDIA CEO, asked him directly about this token right here, Bittensor. And so we have Chamath, half of them are bullish on this. Half of them are bullish. Here's his post here. NFA, not financial advice. Family member. What's this Tau you keep talking about on the pod? He said, sell half your Bitcoin for Tau. He said, reminds me of 6, 12, 18 to 24 months here. Sell Bitcoin, buy Tau. Again, not financial advice. But that's what he's telling his family members.
Okay. Well, that's always dangerous to talk to family members about crypto.
Yeah, you'll have hot gravy thrown on you at Thanksgiving if it goes poorly.
For sure. Yeah, Tau is something like I've been excited about since $40 on the blockchain basement. And now what I've seen with AI and these token gated activities from AI agents, again, Tau is causing unreasonable amounts of FOMO because we are in a bear market. And I usually I'm a Bitcoin maximalist during the bear market and I'm stacking low Bitcoin. Tau just is like way outperforming a vast majority of the altcoins. Like that Siren altcoin that you showed, or the meme coin Siren, that's probably going to look like a Pippin chart a month or two from now, right? Where it's going to be manipulated way up and way down. Tau has structural integrity to its price around $120.
Now, this is Tau in Satoshis. So each Tau is worth right now about 4,000 Satoshis. And if you look at the last few months, or really about the past year or so, you'll see it is in a range. And right now, potentially a little bit oversold against Bitcoin. Again, this is, we're just saying potentially, nothing concrete here. Maybe something to somewhat pay attention to here. So I would keep an eye out on that. Tau is getting a little bit of a heated trade. If you can flip this into support, start gaining against Bitcoin even more. Now we're talking again. This is Tau priced in Bitcoin. We also have, if you want to find it, by the way, this is the hack. You got to type in Bittensor. You see it down here. We still have our prediction here. But we need Bitcoin to pump because it can't keep pumping against Bitcoin. So this move will predicate upon Bitcoin additionally pumping here. If that happens, this is definitely a doable target, a very, very doable target here. And just for a refresher, 21 million Tau. Is it 21 billion? 21 million.
21 mil.
Yeah. 21 million. Similar tokenomics to Bitcoin. There is a halving. I forget if it's every 2 years, every 4 years, and it's marketed as the Bitcoin of AI. And so AI can, there's subnets, and go watch our other videos. Drew's put out a really, really good video if you want to learn more about Tau. Really explains what it is. But you did bring up Siren. Let's go to Siren here. Siren went from $25 million market cap to $280 million market cap in 3 hours. It would then go from $750 million to $3 billion in 24 hours. This kind of crime candle is only possible on Binance Smart Chain. And this is the warning. I said, I have a severe warning for you. Let me warn you, folks. Now, when you go to the 1 hour chart, you see there was a strong pullback. If you were the Cabal insider, you got a 5x on your token in less than a day. The huge pump there. That's 17 hours. And really, you could probably move that a couple hours. So about 15 hours, got about a 5x. Yeah, this thing is moving in a crime season. I would definitely say that. Let me give you the warning. There's a wallet cluster holding 88% of the circulating supply. That's going to raise the manipulation concerns. So this one is heavily manipulated. That could mean manipulated to the upside. That could mean you miss out on the Lambo, but you also might lose 90% of this immediately. And so I would just caution. I would just warning. Kevin with the chili here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the season for this kind of activity. And honestly, I feel like there will be another season where all the ships will rise with the tide. This is an isolated money laundering event, is what it looks like to me on a chart perspective. But
yeah, this is 2 hours from having from being that doesn't even let me measure it the correct way. In 2 hours, we're gonna have 24 hours from that. And so a lot of people are gonna see this token down 50%. They're gonna ape in, Drew.
Right.
Oh, it's down 50%. That's got to be a buy.
Yeah, just be savvy about it, you guys. Like, once we see the weekly money flow on Bitcoin coming back up, then it's time to party for altcoins again. We're not there. Siren will be back to zero soon, probably underdog, probably. So yeah, I'm not chasing this one at all. I might short it with a small amount of tether if it goes back up to that.
Just be careful doing that, man. Look at these 1 minute candles.
This is something I would throw like $100 at, like something where it's like, if it gets liquidated, fine. But if I short it to where I expect it to be at near zero, that's a move.
All right, I'm gonna do a low leverage 3x long, a 3x as low leverage as you can get it. Besides going to 2x, you're liquidated in 8 minutes.
Yeah, it moves fast. It moves fast and violent. So this one, I just I have no interest in holding this.
Technically 6.
Yeah, it'll find strong support at zero.
Imagine doing a 3x long and you're liquidated in 6 minutes.
I mean,
you're down 10%, 20%, 30%. You're just like, what the heck?
If I went short this morning, I would have been liquidated in 6 minutes, right? Like I absolutely would have. If I went short this morning, I just was operating off the 4 hour MACD and everything I saw. I remember, this reminds me of December 24. Remember when the AI agents were doing numbers like this and everyone got enticed to goat the fake AI, and there's like Godimus Maximus or whatever it was called, and all kinds of weird AI agents. They
Mhm.
run out of the blue, and then people diamond hand them thinking that they're going to just keep running. This is a hard lesson to learn in crypto.
That wallet cluster, when I looked, they were up, I think 800 million in unrealized profits. Again, it's the circulating supply, not the total supply. They're not going to diamond hand that.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, it's person versus person. There's a dev out there with a big bag. So just be careful about that. It's almost more depressing seeing people make gains and not take any and go back to zero than it is watching the Hex community think that Richard Hart's going to come back to save them. I can't decide which is more depressing to watch, but
Didn't he do another token?
he did, and it was a complete disaster. Now everyone's freaking out on him again. So, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Hopefully he comes back out with more Gucci and Prada bags, though. Put on another 15 pounds after putting his workout videos online. It's the way it goes.
All right, people saying check out the night chart here. Well, let's look at the night chart. Night did hit that support level that we were talking about before. Honestly, we were talking about this and we're like, hey, maybe you should be a buyer here. If you were, you are up today. Even if you top blasted the wick right there on Friday evening, you're in the profit right now. And again, I've been selling some night, buying some hype. Like I said, about 2 of my 8 wallets, not a whole lot. I still have most of my night here. I sold some for SNEC. I haven't looked at SNEC recently. I don't know if you guys recall that. I was like, I gave it to the chat. I was like, should I buy Bitcoin, Cardano, or SNEC? And I think I put it on X, and everyone was like, buy the meme coin, buy the meme coin. I'm like, fine, whatever. I'll buy the meme coin. I'm sure it's probably not down as bad as this. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. But night is looking good. It was at support here. And so, just it needs to hold this support, needs to start bouncing. And then after that, it needs to get past this. Definitely an argument for a head and shoulders here.
Yeah. I got my Monero socks on right now. Okay. I am about privacy tokens. I don't know if here. I got Monero socks. I'm about privacy. I want to see Midnight win. I think we deserve privacy. That's an ugly head and shoulders, DZ. Yeah,
if it rejects, I mean, can it go that low? It can go that low. I don't know if it would go that low because there's pretty strong support at this range, but you also got a little bit of a falling wedge, which a falling wedge is a bullish signal if you count this wick here.
Yeah.
Again, you have to count the wick. And then does this give you? Yeah, we're trying to potentially break out. Falling wedges are bullish like 65% of the time. Nothing guaranteed, but it shows that the buyers are stepping in and see how the downside isn't as steep as the high side here. So this is signaling strength of the whales. They're starting to accumulate, and you're able to push it down a little bit less each and every time there. So
can you measure out the head to see where that level would go to if this head and shoulders plays out real quick?
Yeah, you're saying to the downside?
Yeah, just for some doomer outlook here.
I mean, you're looking at 30 cents or 3 cents.
3 cents. Okay.
Pretty strong psychological number too there.
Yeah. Okay. Good to look out for. Just good to keep in mind as we go through. It's a small market cap project, so violence can happen.
All right. Let's talk about Solana here. Top 250 pump.fun deployers here. They extracted 89 million from the trenches, deployed 1,000 tokens per day, a total of 194,000 tokens in the last 6 months. Produce only 10 tokens with a $5 million market cap. And so if you do the math here, 250, doing a little over 1,000 a day, they're just launching 4 tokens a day, 4 tokens a day, 4.5 tokens a day, just continuously cranking out tokens here. And like I said, they've extracted 80 million from the trenches, trader main. It's called the trenches because pretty much everyone dies. That sums it up for you. So I would stay away from the pump.fun. And a lot of issues with the team and the tokenomics, and it just hasn't been looking great.
I think the pain in the trenches is translating to crypto Twitter, where they will say crypto is dead, right? Because a lot of those people that are guaranteeing you an extended bear cycle and a cataclysmic fall to zero for most everything, they already are at zero because they stayed in the trenches and got hit by motors, right? They got hit by dev wallets that flip sold entire bags. And I think that the negativity that you hear on X mostly is stemming from the Solana degens that got wrecked, they got rinsed and repeated, and now they want to bring everyone down to their level. But if you're heavier in Bitcoin, Bitcoin is sitting here at near $70,000 with all of this crazy stuff going on, right? It's really not that bad of a situation. Like,
Mm-mm. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the situation. Me and Drew, we're monitoring the situation.
Yes.
Okay. We just want to cover some crypto news first. You ready for some XRP news, Drew?
I'm always ready for it. I love XRP news. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's a spout that doesn't stop flowing, even in the darkest.
All right. I got two paths as a Western man. I have two paths here. I got something good for XRP, which is a fundamental, let's just say, milestone. And then I got something maybe not so good for XRP. What do you want first?
Give me the bad news first, okay? Because I want to hear the good news after the bad. So give me the bad news.
All right, now this might be bad news. Honestly, this could be good news. Now, the other news is definitely better here. Now, looking at the XRP chart, we have talked about this area of resistance. I mean, how long were we in there? An hour? Not even. Yeah, we barely wicked into it and just strong rejection. So let's go back to the daily here. We have a nice little symmetrical triangle. It's got little targets to the upside, little targets to the downside. I guess the good news is, Drew, we knocked on the door. We knocked on the door and we bounced. The bad news is the more we bounce, the more we knock, the more likely we're going to crash through. And so now we have basically two competing narratives. We got the resistance to the upside. We got support to the the downside, but this is heading lower and lower and lower. So if it continues to act as support, I mean, expect some lower prices for XRP. We still got a target to the downside. A symmetrical triangle could break either way. It's going to be about 90 cents to the downside and about $1.90 to the upside here. So, I mean, this is going to just put us about $1.40, 50 cents in either direction there. So XRP definitely at an inflection point. The bulls have to take over. They must hit this range. They must use that as support. Otherwise, that $2 XRP a little bit further away. The good news, though, this is great news. XRP's stablecoin supply has doubled over the last 3 months. We got the chart here. Just want to show you. This looks pretty steady, Drew. There are little dips. There are definitely redemptions. I'm not sure if this is maybe stress tests, maybe to see, can we, cash out 100 million in stable coins? Can we cash out 10, 20, maybe 250 million in stable coins? But the amount has tripled. Looking at the specific numbers here, it was 284 million, now 568 million as of March 20th. And so doubling, over the last 3 months, not tripling. So XRP, the stable coin, continues to accelerate. I don't know if the adoption is accelerating, but the token supply is accelerating, and one could lead to the other.
Yeah, it's the stable coin takes away use of XRP, the token. So on one hand, it's going to increase network activity on XRPL, but it's basically RLUSD is what XRP set out to be, and then ended up being just a cash cow that Ripple sells XRP to fund their operations, bank agreements, and then they work out the stablecoin thing. This, I'm not going to buy any XRP. I don't like XRP for that reason of the lack of buy pressure and the moves that they made against Bitcoin. So from an ethics standpoint, I'm not touching it. But XRP is, all right, let's just say this. Bitcoin goes down to 60K. XRP is probably going to vibe check 70 cents. I think even lower than that 90-cent target that you were looking at, DZ. I think 70 cents is where XRP will wash out down to. And, there's a lot of psychos that are going to buy the 70-cent mark. But I remember 70 cents was resistance for a year, or maybe a few years, it felt like. So I think that 70-cent mark is where it'll flush out down to. And that's where
481 days.
481 days accumulating in that range too.
And
that was the tweet.
I couldn't get past this range.
The Trump tweet about strategic reserve, isn't that where that green?
Well, this is Trump victory. And then we had the other pushes from the strategic reserve. So that's the victory over Kamala. And then we have the pump right there. Yeah. When it was going to be USA crypto capital and we're buying altcoins was kind of what he signaled with that post. Well, let's talk about Trump. I'm glad you brought up Trump here. Bitcoin did rebound to 71K as oil dropped after Trump signals a pause on Iranian strikes here. So he postponed the Iran strike for 5 days, sent oil crashing below $100. Price reacted to his announcement of a 5-day pause on planned U.S. military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. And then we have a cheeky response from Coin Bureau CEO. Coin Bureau CEO, you can see the reaction. He said, "This shall henceforth be known as the taco pump." This is the post right here. It's from True Social. Donald Trump posted it this morning, 7 a.m. "I'm pleased to report the U.S. and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week, I've instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter." And so we have the post, you can see it right here. Trump says, "We've had productive talks," but then Iran denied the announcement here. And so I have some updates. This is going to be, just breaking updates as we're reading this here. So he said we would postpone strikes for 5 days following these talks. And the social post, written in all caps here, spoken to reporters later, Trump said Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, two of his leading envoys, began talks Sunday that would continue today. He said a deal with Iran would prohibit nuclear weapons and involve regime change. Well, Iran's foreign ministry denied they are in talks with the U.S., according to state media, and said there is no dialogue with Washington, which is why we saw the pullback here. Iran denies President Trump's statement here. They're saying this is just not what we're seeing. This is just false, patently false here. So it was the foreign ministry denied their talks, according to the state media, saying there's absolutely no dialogue between the two capitals. There are initiatives from regional countries to reduce tensions, and a response to all of them is thus: we are not the party that started this war, and all those requests should be referred to Washington. And that's according to the state broadcaster here. And on top of that, we've actually launched new assaults. This is Israel, not the U.S. And so 5-day pause, not going to do any new escalations on the energy infrastructure. Well, Israel then launched a fresh wave of attacks 2 hours ago, announcing the strikes roughly an hour after Trump said the U.S. would halt attacks on the power plants and energy infrastructure. The Air Force has begun a short while ago another wave of strikes targeting infrastructure of the Iranian terror regime across Tehran. Yeah. And so a lot of back and forth, he said, she said. I guess it'd be he said, he said. Yeah. And the markets are kind of in confusion at the moment, Drew.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that policymakers within Trump's cabinet are at a confused moment as well, because they can say they want peace and that they want to de-escalate, but if Bibi doesn't want to, then the war continues, right? So there's a disconnect, I think, from what Bibi is wanting to accomplish and how much involvement Trump is wanting to have in this. So
just to back up, who do you mean by Bibi? A lot of people are just going to be unaware. I was talking to a family member, didn't know how to pronounce Netanyahu, because this is all new stuff to him. He just kind of watches a little Fox News here and there, a little bit of boomer energy. He was born in the early 60s. And I was just talking to him about his crashing portfolio. He calls me when he has concerns.
Yeah, I get those calls too. I think that what we saw this weekend from Trump leading into the weekend, Trump threatened the power grid, right? And then Iran just responded back, yeah, we can do that too. And they're not talking. I think that these are actually veiled threats of much larger ordnance going off than what we've seen so far. So I don't want this to continue to escalate. And I also learned a lot about how hardened Iran is at some specific locations that I'll be talking about on the basement today. But essentially, there is no outlook of this slowing down other than Trump walking out of it and just saying we won and getting out of it. They are very, very entrenched in Iran. And I don't think that we're going to have a nice, clean exit out of this, no matter how much we want to imagine the situation being that way. So, yeah, man, I think Bibe is he's going to want to keep moving the war forward either way, even if Trump wants it to stop. So maybe that'll hurt the U.S. Bibi relationship to a point where they have to step back from being so closely tied. I'm a hopeful romantic thinking that could happen.
We do have an update. He did speak to Maria Bartiromo. She's a Fox News correspondent here. Trump told Fox Business he didn't know what the Iranian state media was talking about, but expressed hope that a deal could come before the end of the 5-day extension of his deadline to begin the energy infrastructure strikes if they don't open up the Strait of Hormuz. Do we see 76K this week and then rejection again? Are we, man, a lot of this is, do we see 76K? I lean towards yes. I will say this. We're getting mixed reports, but I think the markets want bullishness. They want any kind of positivity, and they're maybe plugging their ears to some of the negative news. And so this, to me, is leaning a little bit bullish. I might even see you one higher and say 77. What do you think, Drew?
Well, there's a lot of liquidity at 75 currently. There's a giant, I'll pull it up real quick on my, or you can pull it up on CoinGlass. If you go on the weekly, on the symbol for Bitcoin, there is 200 million reasons to hit 75K in particular, right, sitting up above us. And
yeah, 74,960. Yeah, right at 75K, Drew.
Right. And you just saw how aggressive Bitcoin acted to the upside on any hope of peace. And then Iran immediately comes out, says, no, this is false. And the markets didn't care. The markets are trying to price in, okay, everything's going to be all right. And, you know, oil, very violent to the downside on the news. Oil, I mean, oil dropped by 15% in the span of 15 minutes off of the news, right? So there's a lot of pricing in of hope, and it's really about who controls the media and the narrative about it. But honestly, this is a liquidity game.
Yeah, let me explain this for a lot of people. A lot of people just see colors. They squint their eyes. Is that oil in a puddle? What am I even looking at here? This is what they call a liquidation heat map. And this is looking at leverage positions, derivative positions here, where people are betting on it to go up or they're betting on it to go down, and they're using leverage. And so when it goes up too high and they bet on it to go down, they get liquidated. That's why it's called the liquidation heat map. And so there's a cluster of liquidations at this period. And so these are bears betting on Bitcoin to go down. And if Bitcoin continues to go up, they could all get liquidated at this point right here. Now, this liquidation heat map can be manipulated. So that is something to, to put a little feather in your cap there. But this is a pretty good place to typically see where Bitcoin and other assets are going to be heading. I like to think of it as a magnet. If we have a little magnet below us, but maybe if it's even closer, like these are little magnets, but this is a strong magnet. And so if you have a little refrigerator magnet right here, and you have the very large magnet that's picking up junk cars at the depot, if you're closer to this magnet, it might not matter because the other magnet is so more powerful. And so that's what we're looking at here. There's a little refresher on the liquidation heat map. Now, we did bring up the Strait of Hormuz. This might be pretty serious, and maybe some people are downplaying. So the IEA, International Energy Agency, just called the Strait of Hormuz crisis the greatest global energy security challenge in history, bigger than all the other major oil and gas crises combined. They looked at the 73 oil shock. Arab embargo pulled off 2.6 million barrels a day offline for 6 months. 79, 6 to 7 million barrels a day combined. And that's going to be Iran's revolution plus Iraq's invasion. Yeah, those 79 Iranian revolution. Iraq and Iran fought for years in the 80s, started with the 1979 revolution there. But yeah, that was 6-7 million barrels a day. So million, 2.6, 6-7, 22 Russia, Ukraine, 3 million barrels a day of petroleum. All three combined, about 12 to 13 million barrels per day at peak. Meanwhile, the 2026 Hormuz crisis, Gulf production is down at least 10 million barrels a day. Flows through the strait have gone from 20 to nearly zero. It says global oil supply is projected to plunge by 8 million barrels a day in March, with losses still mounting. S&P Global, however, estimates 17 million barrels a day of oil and products have been removed from markets. And so that's more than 73, 79, and 22 all combined. Nobody has a playbook for this.
Yeah. And imagine, like, I think it's around like 70% of the energy in the Middle East is used for air conditioning. If we see the power grid
That's not
shut
right.
down,
That
you
can't
don't
be
think
right.
it's right? I was reading, I'm going to pull up the
Maybe I
data.
would give you residential energy, 100% residential energy.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's a desert, and if you don't have air conditioning and you're building like these oasis cities in the desert that no longer have power, the exodus out of the Middle East is going to be biblical if they do shut down the energy, right? So that's what I'm thinking about. I feel bad for the people that are like wondering if they're going to have AC next week watching
Oh,
all
it's a
this
lot
crap
worse than
going
that. It's the
on.
water. The water is going to be a really, really big issue. I do want to share this. Ukraine struck Russia's main Baltic Sea oil export terminal hours ago. And so reports that Russia has now suspended exports of crude oil and fuel from the facility. This isn't going to affect the European economics or the American economics as much as China, and of course Russia themselves, and India is also a buyer of Russian oil there. So some things to keep an eye out on. Silver also had a major crash here. Silver crashed below $62, lowest in over 3 months, is now down 34%, $32 this month alone. Will it break $60? Seen a lot of smart people say, oh yeah, that is definitely in the cards. Now, this is what's wild. We talked about this level of support. We fell through it over the weekend. But let me show you this. So again, just kind of catching the wicks here. You catch the candle bodies here, more importantly. And look at the 1 hour. Whoa. I was
Jeez.
actually looking at this earlier. I looked at like 2 hours ago. I didn't think we would hit it that cleanly. That's pretty cool. So silver now facing a potential rejection area. If it could turn this back into support, that would be very, very good for the silver. Ugh. Look at that chart there. That looks real bad. This is the 4 hour.
Imagine buying silver above $100 to hedge against inflation and war. And then it starts happening and it dumps by 50%. This is absolute cinema. 122 to, geez Louise. What
To
a pullback.
69. We're at $69 right there. That's silver. What about gold? Unconfirmed reports of Dubai, Saudi, and Qatar central banks offloading gold reserves to raise funds. And so if you're wondering what the heck's going on with gold prices lately, they might be having to fund infrastructure, oil, nat gas. Maybe oftentimes you give the crowds the circus and the bread when the people get a little upset. So maybe a little stimulus going over there. Let's look at gold. I want to point this out as well. We had a couple. We had this area, fell through that rather. Look at this. And so, just catching the wicks, catching the bodies here, catching under the candles. Let's go to the 4 hour. Let's go to look at that, Drew. Look at that. So gold looking a little bit better than silver here, in my opinion. Gold's kind of bouncing off support. Silver's kind of coming against support here, I would say. And you can kind of see the bottoms. You go to gold. Gold's just so much more bullish. Gold's like up here. The gold, I would say, all right, Drew, you got to hold one for 6 months.
Yeah.
Gold or silver, what do you got?
I'm
Chat.
probably
Gold or silver, what do you got? And don't say Bitcoin, and don't say Shiba Inu.
Yeah.
Don't you say Cardano.
Can I short it? I'd rather hold a low leverage short for months on end on gold.
What falls the least then?
I would say gold will fall the least because silver is kind of like an altcoin and gold is kind of like Bitcoin in terms of how their price relationship works. So I think gold would fall less. Silver, that can be real ugly really quick, right? So I would rather, if I had to hold spot, if I must, oh, this is such a tough choice. I guess I would say gold because
this is a little bit of an Adam and Eve top where you get that V followed by the rounded curve.
Yeah.
This does show a reversal, but I mean, that may have just, that was triggering here, really triggering here. So maybe this is the reversal that played out. Maybe this is the dump. Maybe it just needed that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it dumped. Maybe just needed that 18% correction. Now maybe the bulls can come back.
Yeah. Either way, I'd feel like I'm in danger buying gold and silver right now. I mean, they're massively up, but if I had to choose, it would be gold. And
Peter Schiff has been suspiciously quiet lately.
He has. He quiets down every time that his gold starts trading like an altcoin. And just on the amount of energy consumption for AC, DZ, it ranges from 50 to 70% of their total energy. So in the summer months, it does hit 70%. When it's cooler, it hits around 50%. But that's a lot of energy expenditure for AC.
Why 5 days? This isn't World War II. Well, 5 days would be Friday. So it gives them time to do something by Friday market close. And then if they break the deal on the 6th day, it's Saturday and the markets are closed. So insulates themselves from any criticism if the markets dump.
Yeah. Usually Trump likes to give the bad news on Friday, the good news on Monday. All right. That's kind of what you're seeing play out over the last week too. So
couldn't find silver at $11. I wouldn't be a seller at 11. I would not be a seller at 11. Looking at $11 silver. Okay, someone got in really, really good price here. Geez, I got to go to, let's say, the 3-day. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good price. Imagine catching that wick right there.
Yeah, that was COVID, right? That was the COVID dip.
This is you smashing the like button. So this rocket ship represents our likes. And every time you hit the like button, the rocket goes up a little bit, everybody. So if you could really help us out, smash that like button. Really would appreciate it. Drew, have you smashed the like button today?
Yeah, I better. Actually, I'm going to do it on my phone.
I'm looking over at the window. I'm going to smash it myself. Everybody, smash the like button. Really does help us out. Helps us hit the algorithms. Folks, if you really want to help us out, that helps us more than anything. Discover Crypto post here. Gold crash. This has the total amount, $1.5 trillion in under 3 hours of futures openings. Yes, we are in chaos season. We'll look at the assets by market cap. What do we have it here? There we go, right there. And this is going to look at gold. This is going to look at NVIDIA. It's going to look at Bitcoin. It's going to look at silver. Gold, yeah, look at that. Right now, 31 trillion. So still holding above 30. Bitcoin, 1.426. Not too hot there. And we have NVIDIA. NVIDIA have the nice little move today. And what else? We have Saudi Aramco down a little bit. I'm surprised this one doesn't have more volatility. I'm not saying it should go down or up. I'm just saying surprised there's not more volatility on this one. Walmart, Samsung, Eli Lilly. Let's go over. I have a question for you, Drew, here. I was wondering, I was looking at some stocks, might put a little stock video tonight, talk about Bitcoin, a couple stocks here. Of the major tech stocks, what would you rather have? Let's just do the top 5. NVIDIA, Apple, Google, Microsoft, or Amazon?
I would go after Amazon. I would.
You'd rather have Amazon?
Yeah, I think Amazon's a sleeper cell when it comes to AI rollout. I think Amazon's going to do some crazy stuff. So I'm actually thinking that Amazon's going to be the move.
I'm surprised Tesla is as low as it is, given the AI. Amazon, okay, if I had to choose out of these, that is a tough one. I don't think it's Apple. I think they kind of dropped the ball in AI. They don't have the foldable phones that a lot of the young whippersnappers want. Google, Gemini is pretty good. Microsoft, they have that weird deal with OpenAI, and it's like, we're friendly, but we're not friendly. We got this exclusive deal, but it's not exclusive. And it's like, what's going on with all that? I actually like Amazon as well. I do think Amazon with the drone delivery is in a good position over the next 5-10 years. So I actually agree with you, Drew. I think I would also go into Amazon here.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
I like Tesla over Amazon, though. Tesla's at very, very strong support. Let me show you this. Let's go to, boom.
You Tesla maxis are laughing at me and my V8 lately. Jeez,
look at that. Whoa. I charted this on Friday. And whoa. The wheel's going crazy. Look at the market open. It's totally insane there. And Tesla's just at, I don't want to say historical support or anything, but, some potential support here. You can see a little bit better on the daily.
Yeah.
Boom. So that's what I'm looking at Tesla. And then we have the Giga support. I have a lot of people saying they're not even thinking about buying it till it hits 250. If it hit 250, I mean, there's a chance it could be in relation to this yellow line on the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, Tesla is something that I know I think my wife's been adding this one to the portfolio as well. And also, Elon was responding to a lot of reports about this Anthropic integration with the US government, throwing some shade in a back end way, like he's already heavily involved with the US Gov on AI side as well. Tesla, XAI, all of those in that family, I think, are going to be really, really good asymmetric stock bets. So we're adding those to the portfolio. And then I'm doing nano nuclear energy as well. kind of picking on the nuclear energy industry. Look at that comeback from the S&P 500 on the week. That's a crazy looking chart. Almost made it to the midpoint. Now trying to rally again. Holy cow, DZ. Do you think the weekly candle will hold? I mean, because that's looking beautiful so far.
What is
It's
a
only
newer
Monday.
weekly candle?
Mm-hmm.
3 days, so close Friday. We'll get a new one on Friday here. I would say, yeah, because a lot of people got real bearish because the rounding top. So it moved down pretty quickly,
Right.
decisively, at least for the stock market. And so when you see a pretty quick move like that, 7% in less than a month, yeah, the stock market doesn't want to go down that quickly unless there's a major catalyst. But I mean, you could say the Iranian escalation is a major catalyst. So
yeah,
I'm still, I would say it's almost more likely we're going to hit the midline than the top line.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see it react so negatively leading up to Iran when it was just trying to continue to pump when we knew Venezuela was coming, right? So it's kind of hard to trade around Trump's decisions, but in general, I think this is going to be an ongoing kind of chaotic season. And really,
what if I said there's a way we can maybe predict Trump's decisions?
Well, just ask Barron. That would just get Barron on the
I don't
phone.
hate that.
Yeah.
No, it's when the yields get too high, that's when he softens his tone. Okay. Yeah. And so this is one of the yields I'm talking about, the 20 years. So this is the US 20-year note yield is now above 5%. At the current pace, we'll have 7% mortgages, $4 gas prices this week. Talk about a turn of events. And so, I was joking with Drew, we're both going to be stuck in our houses even longer. And, maybe a blessing in disguise for both of us. But yeah, so our yields, when the yields get too high, Trump has signaled he is willing to be more friendly, be more of a negotiator, go back to the art of the deal, if you will. And if you look, we had the tariffs. This is January 25. So this is, he's first in. Hey, don't worry. It's going to be not as bad as we thought. Then we had Liberation Day. Then he kind of walked back to Liberation Day pause. All of these are when the yields spike above 5%. So when the yields start spiking, meaning expensive mortgages, expensive, cost of borrowing here, slowing down the economy. I'm going to cut to where we're at today. He signals, hey, I'm going to be a little bit more friendly here. This is going to be October 23. And look where we're at right now. So let's go to the daily. We spiked above 5. And now, Drew, we are trying to, look at that. The yields are coming down pretty quickly there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something where I feel like Bessent and Trump are going to put the pressure on when they see they have room to the upside where they can run it back up to 5% and then hit the brakes, take your foot off the gas in terms of this geopolitical conflict when we do enter that 5+% realm. Because the bigger problem with our banking industry is the real estate pressure within it. And I said this about the gold chart 100 times. The market is locked up right now because of real estate action basically falling off a cliff. So, it's stagflation, whether they want to admit it or not. And you're going to see these kind of games played by the Treasury. Scott Bessent is like one of the best known currency generals. And I think.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by currency general? Because a lot of people, they're not going to know Bessent's history.
Absolutely.
Shorting the, I'll let you.
So they should watch my weekend video first of all, but since you're here, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in the 80s saw a weakness in the United Kingdom in their real estate industry, and he crushed the pound as a number 2 right under George Soros and decided to crash the UK pound and put it back into its place. The UK was kind of up and coming in terms of competing on a manufacturing or export realm. And it was pushed back down as the US wanted to continue its dominance as a world reserve currency. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has made it clear that what's going on right now is Bretton Woods, another Bretton Woods. You don't get the second Bretton Woods without a completion of
So back up
War.
again, not to keep doing that. What does that mean? Bretton Woods.
Bretton
that sounds like a
Woods,
British cricket player.
Right. So Bretton Woods.
I'm Bretton Woods. Here's my polo.
Decision point where you were decided that you were the world reserve currency that was given to the U.S. after World War II. And Bissett came out and said Bretton Woods 2.0 is about to take place, and I'm looking forward to having part of it, meaning that we're about to go to World War III and decide the next leader of the world reserve currency. If it's the U.S., Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is going to be in lead of that. So this is something that's happened before when world conflict broke out to the scale where you have 50 plus countries involved with kinetic military strikes, which is our current situation. And the winner will be put in place as the world reserve currency. It's not, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be a tripolar, bipolar world where you have US running one section and China running the other section. Nature is going to choose a winner. This is how I think nature boils things down to. There has to be a winner at the top. And now it's just a decision if it's going to be the US or China. And this is where the Iran thing comes into play. They were trading the oil and in yuan. They were trading it outside of the US dollar, which is breaking the pact of the world reserve currency. That's why we're here. You know, it's very simple. It's all about a game of control of monetary power and resources, and it's being enforced by military action. All the emotions and all the feelings of this way or that way aside, I think we'd be in this situation regardless of if it's Trump or Kamala Harris in control of the situation. I absolutely do.
I will take the over. I will say we will move towards a bipolar world.
Do you think so?
I think that's power wanes if used if you use it too much.
Mhm.
So, you know, not to get
I
like
disagree,
Machiavellian
but we will
philosophical.
see. We will have the
philosophical.
result of our bet very, very soon. It'll probably take a few years for this to play out, but it's a concept that I've heard is the bipolar or tripolar world. I just lean towards nature always chooses one main champion, and then the others have to agree to it. So, you know, maybe people outside the US hate the situation. Maybe people inside the US love it. I'm not here to tell you what to feel about it, just what is happening right now, just to make some sense of it.
All right. Well, we'll see how Scott Bessent pulls this off. All right. Now, I do want to share this. A great prediction by the Kobayashi. I was talking about, you know, we could look at the yield rates and kind of maybe see what's going to happen. I'm stealing this from Kobayashi. They did this last night at 7 p.m. and they talk about the previous pauses there. A little bit extra clarification. That one in April was when he implemented the 90-day pause. So when he did the 90-day pause in April, that's when we saw the 20-year yields fall sharply. And he's talking about the 10-year yields. Let me pull up the 10-year. I was looking at Bitcoin. So you just got to type in, is it 10 US?
I think it's 10. Yeah, I think that's it right there. 10 YR.
US 10Y.
No.
Let me type it in because now it's going to bother. I want to make sure I just find the exact one. Okay, you're going to make me put a space there like a weirdo. I'll put a space there. Not the 10-note ETF. There's so many. 20-year, 2020. And then we'll just back engineer it from here. If you weren't aware, there's a lot here. So we got Japanese, we got the 5-year. Oh yeah, US. Oh, the US, not US 30-year, US 20-year. Oh yeah, it should just be US 10-year. That's what I typed
it's
in
US
first, right?
10Y.
That's the first thing I typed in.
Yeah, US
maybe
10Y.
I did it. Here we go. Let's go to the 1 hour. Okay, so we had pretty sharp rejection there, 4.5. So not even close to 5 there. Head and shoulders. I charted this. I don't even know when. I'll be completely honest with you. Oh, come on. Really? Is that easy the whole time? I guess it was that easy, chat.
Jeez. What a crazy chart pattern that ended up playing out too, where it dips all the way down to like the exact point where the head peak is at and then pumps up and makes the full move. Holy cow.
And really, if, you know, we want to be precise here. God darn it.
Yeah.
Move it one click. I mean, it's like really on point.
Yeah, that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible.
All right. Shout out to the TA gurus there. You know, oh, wow. Look at that. That's on the 4 hour. That's nuts. That's nuts. So, you know, I wasn't longing yields at this point or anything. You know what I mean? So don't be like, oh, I made $1 million off this trade, everybody. But the trade was there if you wanted to short or long yields. And you could do this with ETFs. There's ways to do it. You could do call options. You could do put options. Pretty similar to what you would see with leverage there. So there are ways to do it if you were looking to do it. Now, Drew, did you manage to get those trades? And I don't know if you had any
Well,
trades to show for the people, or you going straight
I
into the basement with the geopolitical alpha.
no, I mean I can show what I did this morning and then my thought process behind it. I definitely made a great move already today. So I'm kind of monitoring the situation on Bitcoin as things sit, but
Sometimes when
um,
you strike it on the roulette table, you leave the casino. You
yeah,
don't hang out in the casino.
absolutely. So like first, I just want to look at the week, and you know where we're at is the money flow is starting to stop the bleed. So this is a flatline stop the bleed on the money flow for the weekly, which is a really good sign. And the MACD hasn't flipped. These moving averages haven't flipped yet, but they are well on their way of flipping. And in general, I'm leaning towards a situation where we can at least run it up and go take out that liquidity we were talking about at 75K and probably even outperform this 76K peak out moment here. The liquidity is looking pretty angled to the upside right now. And there's a lot of people that are just levered short thinking it's going to be down only, which gives a lot of money to be made for the exchanges. On the trade, it was kind of crazy. I'll show you this. So my day trading activity, I look at the 4 hour first and foremost, and right here was the trend line I saw we were at this morning. The MACD flipped to the green, so I decided to go long because I had this trend line that was basically where we've been bouncing off of, quite a bit. And so I've left this on here, and now we've operated really nicely to the upside off of it, but we are now running into the volume node. There's a lot of fight to be done to get above this volume node. So basically, we're sitting at the top end of this main volume node right now. It's the next stop is basically at 74 and then would be right about 78 if we keep chunking to the upside. And I think that right now, the idea of peace is going to be sold more than the constant reality of the war is going to continue. So, that was good moves for me in general. I'm feeling good. Like that was a 3K. And then I made another 1,200 before I left the office on Friday. A couple stops. I got stopped out for 170 there, 135 there. But in general, I'm walking this account up to 20K.
A 3K morning. Pretty
yeah.
good morning. Yeah, maybe you should just step away from the casino, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good. Look at this is the craziest part about the trade is that the trade I was only in this trade for like 3 minutes. Look at this. So I freaking entered it when I got in my car and I got a good review on the markets. I entered right here, and I was in it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes. I was in this trade for 9 minutes, caught this entire candle on 49x, and took my profits at 69.9. And then walked away from the charts. And it is interesting to see us basically trying to build up in this volume node and not giving up this entire move after Iran's like, yeah, no, this is false. So we are now trying to bounce and build some support on this volume node right now. It's going to kind of analyze it, take all the information in. And I really think if we could hold above 70K, and bounce off of it, even if we crash in the short term down to 70K, if we can show 70K as that new support, it might be a very uppity week for Bitcoin and leave a lot of bears on the sidelines wishing.
And I want to tell everybody, if you want to join our trading group, in our link below, we have a Discord link right here. Discord, just click on that, take you to basically the Discord. If you're unfamiliar, you'll see the channels on the left side, and we have the Discord trading group. It is free to join the trading calls here, and all you have to do is just sign in with a UID from one of our partners. If you want to try out ZoomX, 2Bit, Blowfin, there you go. And don't forget, Bitcoin Conference. We are hooking up everybody in the Disco fam, 10% off. You don't have to take the pass quiz. You can just go straight to passes, code DISCOVER. We are code DISCOVER, and so that works on your passes, or you want to do the hotel bundle, and you get to hang out with me and Drew. It's going to be a good time. Well, that is all we got for today. Smash the like button on the way out. We really do appreciate it. I'm going to put out a video looking at some commodities. There is something kind of wild I wanted to talk about, and I needed time to do research. I haven't done a accountant style video. You know what I'm talking about, where I bust out literally spreadsheets, okay? Went to school for accounting. Nothing I'm proud of here. In fact, I'm ashamed, Drew. I'm very
I don't think
ashamed
you
of
should
it.
be ashamed. You can walk
I'm not.
circles around
I'm not.
most people when it comes to math.
I was just, I don't want to say an idiot. I quit schooling in 2018 because I thought AI was around the corner. It's around the corner. Like next semester, I'll be obsolete. I was a little early. I was 6 years early, 8 years early there. But gold's dropped 10% or more in a single day, only 3 times in history. 80, 83, January 26 after the parabolic run up. Gold's down at that point 10% today at 3 a.m. I'm going to look at the historical averages of these periods. I've done a little bit of the grunt work, a little bit of the leg work there. I got to go into trading view. I got to look at where's it at 7 days later? Where's it at 30 days later? Then maybe just derive, all right, what does it fall on average? Or does it pump? What's the average after a week? What's the average after a month? Is there similarities here? And if there are similarities, and what I saw initially looks like it's kind of similar, maybe we can expect the song to hit that chorus one more time. And that's all I'm going to be. So tune in tonight. Maybe I'll look at Bitcoin charts as well. That's all we got for Drew, for TJ, for the whole disco fam, for Kelly out there in Vegas, for Aaron, the editor in the background, and for Fred, who doesn't watch our lives. That is all we got. He's our editor for our upload. So, all right, hit the like button on the way out, and we'll see you folks in the future.